I've done most of the things that
How did you get it off the ground, and how did it get so big?
Well, I think we knew it was going to be big because it was a feature. I think I often say we are a little bit naive, which helps, and we're very persistent, Melanie especially. And we just thought, well, what else are we going to do? After the Oscar, we were going to do a series, but everyone said, no, here's your one chance to do a feature. There's support, there's a window of opportunity, just go for it. So we quickly wrote the script over a year, and then it took another year or so to raise the money, and then it took 19 months to make.
Yeah. So we basically had the whole process started straight after the Oscars, which was this thing literally like, you guys should come up with something. So we're like, all right, and funnily enough, it is actually easier to finance a feature film than projects that are odd shapes, you know what I mean? Because at least everyone think you talk the same language, But also, I think one of the things that's important to kind of contextualise is that in Australia, the film industry is not business. It's not for profit, you know what I mean, really. It's cultural expression, totally. So the way in which our films are made and financed in terms of the creative stuff is really, yes, they have to like your project, and you go through a number of, a lot of projects get weeded out and so on and so forth, and there's script development, and people, the agencies will say, oh, we don't like this, we do like this, or, it needs to be stronger, or it's not ready yet, or whatever. But once you've gone through that, once you are, at that point where you're being financed, they leave you alone.
That's
creatively.
That took a bit of the pressure off.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I don't think we could have made this film in America with a studio sort of environment. So
we're really independent filmmakers. You know what I mean? Like, that's the truth.
Yeah.
So how did you guys sort of keep your spirits up, because it was such a long shoot and because you had this pressure? This is your one chance.
A lot of drinking. Happens.
That's true.
Well, it was true. Yeah, the crew every Friday night we all went out and. We had 5 production babies. We had a couple of romances begin, a couple of divorces. We had everything, and it was a very tight-knit family of about, at its full capacity, about 50 people in the studio, and there were more people outside the studio doing sound and other bits and pieces. But we got there. Look, you didn't have a choice once you started, and we couldn't say, look, we've changed our minds. We don't want to do this too hard. So I worked a lot of hours. Mel and I put in incredibly long hours. So you could probably see I had hair when we started this. I feel like we're giving birth now. It's been a 5-year pregnancy. Last night the baby was finally out.
So how did you get inside the head of an 8-year-old Australian girl and a 44-year-old Jewish man? Because neither of you are those.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm getting towards it. It was very hard. It was, I really had to get to know these characters, and for me, they had to become real. And almost the characters would tell me what they would do in the film when they got to that point. Max is based on my pen friend in New York, so I also had all his letters from the last 20 years.
And he's genuinely, Jewish, Asperger Syndrome, atheist, overeaters anonymous, he's all those things.
So there's a lot of those things, whereas Mary's a lot more fictional, so I really had to delve into what it would be like to be an 8-year-old girl, and that's very hard for a 37-year-old man. So, but I've got nieces and nephews, and I studied them, and I try and write from instinct. And it was important that we got a real 8-year-old girl to voice Mary. So we auditioned over 40 little girls, and I finally found Bethany Whitmore, and she just was right. I still have trouble knowing what it is about her voice, and there's a vulnerability and other sort of lovely qualities, but she just, for me, is the one.
So the voices really are like a huge part of the movie. They're one of the main ways that the story is told. How do you guys deal with that, having I know that you use voiceover extensively in most of your films, but how did you deal with having to do it through letters and developing those voices?
Well, it's always difficult with any film to have a lot of narration, and all my films up till now have had full narration from beginning to end. And I thought, well, it's going to be really tough to do that with a feature. So why don't we break it up with, we have some narration, but we have voiceover from the two leads. And I think that's worked. I mean, it's still a pretty dense film, and it is relentless. There's just information being thrown at you non-stop. The average shot only goes for about 6 seconds, so there's a lot of information to absorb. But I think after last night's screening, most people, I think, understood what was going on. The plot's not too complex. It's not. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know what's going on. So no, I think it's tough. There's a lot of voice, and working with these big name actors too is tough. But luckily they all really like the script, so it made my job a lot easier.
Yeah. If there was any insecurity, it's when someone like Barry Humphries, who's an Australian legend, or Philip Seymour Hoffman tells him, "You've written a great script." It's sort of like, well, okay, it gives you confidence.
Yeah.
What was the process like working with actors sort of that were so, were you intimidated? Did they want to rewrite a lot of stuff?
No,
no,
we're lucky.
actually.
That could have been the case, but
I didn't even think that.
we sort of said that they could improvise a little bit if they wanted, but no, they just read it, and I let them interpret it. I didn't really have to direct them at all. It was really just press record and off they went. And, we got them to reread some lines. Some of the best stuff was in the first take. They just did fresh. So
I mean, that's, having actors of that calibre means that, chances are they're probably going to be brilliant. So, I literally paid them, like 5 cents each, you know what I mean? Like, it was just so not a Hollywood kind of level of budget. So they kind of had to be in the spirit of it. But also for them, it was a day or two, at maximum. So really, it wasn't a huge amount of work for them.
Probably 0.05% of the actual time we made the film was actually with the actors.
Yeah.
What are your hopes for the film? I mean, are you guys? You're probably exhausted from the 5-year shoot. You can't even begin to think about getting distribution.
No, unfortunately, we have a plan. The plan is we're going to Berlin, and in Berlin, actually, we're in the children's section. So in the part of the program called Generations, 14 plus. So it's for 14-year-olds and up. So, for people here who think it's, too dark for children, well, the Germans think it's for children, so, go figure. And then we release in Australia, which of course is our home, and that's a big deal for us, and that's over Easter. And then hopefully, we've in France, and then hopefully in the US, and, blah, blah, blah. So, hopefully we're going to have a very busy year promoting the film, but Adam's going to have a holiday first. I've had a little holiday. I'm planning to have that sort of potter around the house time, that kind of thing.
So this is sort of the day after the first big screenings. I mean, it's gotten really good reviews so far. I don't know, at the opening press conference, Redford and Gilmore kept going on about how wonderful the film was. Even though nobody asked them, they thought that they should say that anyways. I mean, how does that feel? Do you guys feel really relieved?
Well, look, when we almost were crying backstage before going on and hearing both Geoffrey Gilmore and Robert Redford commend the film, and it was quite emotional. And Geoffrey said in the second screening, he said, 19 years of directing the festival, this was his favourite opening night film. It's like, don't say that.
Yeah. I'll start crying and then I'll get panda eyes from the makeup,
So there's a lot of pressure, but I said at one of the screenings, I can't remember, I think it was the first one I said to the audience, I think the last thing I said, look, it's just a film. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of buzz, it's just a film, don't. And that's the trouble with opening night films. They get the expectations are so high that sometimes people get let down. And there's a few people out there who haven't liked the film, and that's fine. It's you can't expect to please everyone. But most of the reviews, it's been good. I haven't read them all yet. I'm sure there's some horrible ones to come.